Thank you. My name's Benjamin Wu, but you guys can call me Benji. Today, the title of my speech is, What You See is What You Get. I'll begin on my next one. Let's go on an elevator ride in Hong Kong. You step in, watch the doors close as the elevator rises. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, wait. What's happened to the number 4, you may ask? Aren't Chinese people supposed to be good at math? Valid question. But hear me out. Because, you see, back in Hong Kong, the number 4 in Cantonese sounds like the word for death. So, there are many people who see this as a sign of misfortune. Therefore, construction companies often forget the hassle of dealing with complaints and instead skip to the 5th floor directly. It's an interesting and frankly quite hilarious phenomenon, as most of you here in the audience probably have neutral feelings towards the number 4. But back in my home city of Hong Kong, it's a different story, because it shows us that the way we think can change the way that we perceive and interpret it as a blessing or a curse, as a compliment or an insult, a fact or a lie, and everything in between. Yet, we often don't recognize this because it happens subconsciously. This behavior is most apparent. The power of perception is most apparent during times of drastic change. For me, this was half a year ago, when my family and I moved out from the place that I called home for 16 years. Over the course of one single weekend, we packed up our lives into boxes and left those 16 years behind. I stayed up that night. I couldn't sleep. All I could think about was fond memories that I had of my childhood home. And so I felt helpless and frustrated that no amount of wishful thinking could bring that back and return things to the way they were. But as you might listen to my speech, you might notice that there's a change here, because it's all about mindset, as I mentioned in my opening. As I realized that the ability to change our mindsets is an important and useful tool. It's a tool that we can all use when we can't change anything. It's a tool that I use to get over my frustrations and learn to be grateful that I even had a roof over my head in such a densely populated city like Hong Kong. It's a tool that we all use to see success as a slippery slope towards hubris, to see failure as a learning opportunity towards success. It's the tool we use to change our mindset when there's nothing else that we can change. Yet, we often fail to comprehend the other side of changing your mindset. Because, like all tools, this one is one that you have to use responsibly. Because there are going to be times where you can't change the situation that you're in, and so therefore, you should change your mindset. But there are also going to be times where you can change your circumstances, and so that's a completely different story. Let's talk about history. Historically, mental health has always been viewed as fixed and unchanged. We used to think that the issue of mental disorders and traumas was something that had no solution. And it's only with modern science and the discovery of various psychiatric ideas that we've been able to find out that there are solutions, that circumstances can change, and that we don't have to drill a hole into ourselves to change the way we think. Yet, back in my home city of Hong Kong and with many Eastern cultures, there are those who are reluctant to move on. While all of us here can understand the merits of expressing our emotions, of processing our trauma, of seeking professional relief, there are still those in our older generation in Hong Kong that fail to see this, that see it as a waste of time. They teach their children that to bury their feelings. If it's out of sight, if it's out of mind. That is not the mindset that we should have. Our mindset should be one of honesty. Because if we aren't honest about ourselves, we can't change anything. We can delude ourselves. We can be pessimistic about the world and say that good things aren't so, because we don't want to be disappointed. We can never fail to improve our mental health, so we never try to in the first place, right? We can delusionally say that bad things aren't bad, because we don't want to look bad and be unable to solve our problems. Burying our feelings is better than solving them, right? But that's not the way the world works. We can't use changing our mindset as a coping mechanism to avoid solving our problem, because then we're not honest with ourselves, and then we can't change the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a step back into that elevator and ask ourselves, what do we actually do with our minds? If changing our mindset is truly a tool, then how should we use it? The way we think can change whether the elevator goes up or whether the elevator goes down. It can determine whether the number 4 is a mathematical marvel or an ominous omen. But in most cases, the number 4 is just the number 4, and nothing much can really fool that. So as your finger hovers over the button, ask yourself, will you let yourself get it? Thank you. Just that.
Great stuff. I'm sure you've got some questions about that. Let's see some hands in the air. We got one over here. Sorry, the lights are bright.
Thank you. You do mention that mental health is something that there's much more awareness now and perhaps in younger people than in older generations. But at the same time, we continue to read that it's within the younger generations that we see a lot more struggles with mental health. Do you think that actually younger people struggle more, or they're just more aware and older people probably struggle the same but in a different way? Or do you believe that there's more mental health issues and challenges for young people today?
Thank you for that question. This is something that I actually have a friend back in Hong Kong who's quite passionate about. In fact, he himself made a speech about this. He said that even though our mindsets have moved on from the past, so we no longer drill holes in the skulls to solve mental issues, sometimes the systemic issues are still there. Sometimes we need to look towards our institutions, right? Whether it be our education systems, the political system, the law, and see how we can use that to benefit those with mental health issues. But I myself also believe that there's a separate thing going on, and that thing is called social media. In this day and age where there are unrealistic body expectations, there's so many people on the internet that are cyberbullying kids and teenagers, it can be quite difficult as we're scrolling through our phones to maintain a healthy lifestyle. And so I suggest that if you are ever feeling in need of a break, just take it. Just delete Instagram or TikTok or whatever is your social media of choice, and step aside, step back into that elevator and escape from all of it. Because sometimes all of us need a break. And it's honestly all right. Safe. Thank you.
Lovely. Call to action there. Let's have question number 2. We got one over here just behind the stairs.
Hello, Benji. I wanted to just ask a question. As someone who suffers with social anxiety, I heard you say that there are many ways that we can work on our mental health and ways to not bottle it up. I wanted to know, because I've heard of such, but there's no way to get rid of traumas and such. They are still there, and and it still affects my day-to-day life of such traumas that I've endured. But how? And if there is a way, if there is a way to get rid of it all, how do you get rid of it?
Thank you for your question. I'm sorry that you had to go through that trauma, whatever it may be. Thus, I believe personally that there's no way to get rid of it all. There will always be some remnant left behind you. But what we can do is work towards a better future. And I think the way you do that is by understanding that we're not alone. Whether it's social anxiety or other mental issues, we are not alone in dealing with it. We don't have to walk this journey ourselves, because there will always be our friends and families that are there to help us along the way. So even though there may be still a remnant there, the way I think you can do it is by processing your trauma, and that comes with the help of your friends and family, and of course, by seeking professional help, as I mentioned in my speech. I believe that there are a variety of solutions, and there's no one-size-fits-all solution, right? They're all think of it as a sort of just getting on the way there. You're always going towards your destination, but there's no promise that you'll necessarily reach it, that it'll all be gone. But what we can do is just try our best. And I think that's more than enough. Thank you.